Just like Avram Avinu held back his mercy for his son to do your will with a full heart, so should you also hold back your your judgment, the Jewish people, and your mercy upon us should overwhelm your judgment for us. And you should take care of us more than what we deserve. Every morning we start our day this way. We start our day with saying the story of that Akedah. Yeah. And the high holidays, we also mention the story. We read the story of the Akedah on Rosh Hashanah. We read the story of the Akedah in the Torah reading of the day. So the there are 10 commentaries, probably more, that all ask the same question. The question is, what's the big deal? Avram Avinu was a tzaddik, on a level that we can't even comprehend. And the fact that he did what Hashem asked him to do, even though it was a very challenging thing for a regular person, but for Avram, it shouldn't be something that's so extraordinary. On his level, why is it considered so extraordinary that he did this? Avram Avinu heard directly from Hashem. We find throughout history many people gave their life for Hashem. Many people also to give their children's lives for the sake of Hashem during the Holocaust. All kinds of crazy, horrible stories. So, what's the unique merit of Avram that we mention every day? So, in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe takes a unique approach to this question. The Alter Rebbe in Simon Chafalef in Tanya, he says, "Kama gedolim masru nafsham al kedushas Hashem." Many people give their lives for Hashem's sake. Gam kilei divrei Hashem b'am. Even if Hashem didn't speak to them, they did the same thing. So, what's the great virtue of Avram? The Alter Rebbe takes a very unique approach. The Alter Rebbe says what's unique about Avram is that his alacrity, his speed, his excitement, his enthusiasm in doing the will of Hashem. As the Torah says, "Vayashkem Avram b'boker," Avram got up early in the morning, and the Talmud learns from this that lo'olam yaktem adam v'ay mitzvah. Person should always do a mitzvah as soon as possible. So, and that the Alter Rebbe says, "He emes lanu." That's what stands for us. It's that merit, lanu v'neinu. That's the merit that stands for us and our children. What was it also special about Avram? It was his speed and alacrity and excitement, doing the will of Hashem. It wasn't what he did, it was how excited and how fast he did this. So this is also mentioned in Tanya in chapter 26. Chapter 26, the Alter Rebbe says something very remarkable. He's already discussed many different things we need to know about ourselves, about serving Hashem, for 25 chapters. But then in the 26th chapter, the Alter Rebbe sort of gives a whole new presentation. Imagine, Naftali, there's a manufacturing company. They make cars. They make Waymos. They make very expensive cars. And they have some kind of a mess up, and they forget to add the part of the car which takes the gasoline. And it can't be fixed. Made in a way it cannot be fixed. So instead of they're selling the car for $100,000, for $200,000, they're selling it for $5,000. Who would buy it? Nobody would buy it. You can't put gasoline in the car, okay, unless it's a battery operated. But if you can't put gas in the car and the car needs gas, it's worthless. You wouldn't even pay $5 for the car. $5,000, you would pay anything, even though it's a $200,000 car, all the buttons and everything. If it doesn't have a place to put gas in, it's not worth anything. It's worth zero. In a similar way, the Alter Rebbe begins chapter 26, and he says, all that I've told you till now, it's only going to work on one condition. The condition is you have to be excited to serve Hashem, because your excitement in serving Hashem is what will allow you to have enthusiasm and overcome your evil inclination. The key to having this enthusiasm is your happiness. Zrizus means alacrity, and what feeds alacrity is simcha. Joy, happiness is what makes you have that extra level of alacrity. Two guys doing the same thing. They're going to the bank. One's going to the bank because he's going to collect on a lottery ticket for $300 million. And one guy's going to the bank because he has to pay his electric bill. They're both going to the bank. But you could see in their body language that there's completely different visits to the bank. One guy is afraid that his lights went off, or his lights already went off, and he has to pay the electric bill. Another guy is going to the bank because he's going to collect a lottery. It's a different thing. So the Alter Rebbe says the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, contends with you. If you have two people fighting, one's stronger than the other, one's bigger than the other, it doesn't mean that the smaller guy is going to lose. If the smaller guy has excitement and alacrity, and the bigger guy is sluggish and lazy, the small guy will win. So too the Alter Rebbe says, all that I told you before in Shat and Tanya for 25 chapters, it's only going to work if you're happy. Because if you're not happy, you're not going to have the energy to do what you need to do. The happiness is key to the energy. In the 21st letter of Vayera HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the merit of joy. How the merit of Avram was very great because of his joy in serving Hashem. His joy in getting up early in the morning. He showed how much he cherished Hashem's words by getting up early. So he's speaking more about the merit of Avram, how amazing that merit is, how how that affects your judgment in heaven. But in chapter 25 in chapter 26 in Tanya, the author was taking a whole different approach. He's saying, in order for anything in your life to work, in order to the whole time to be functional for you, you have to have happiness. Without happiness, it's not going to work. So imagine Avremel. This guy goes to the doctor gives him medicine, and he says to him, every time before you take the medicine, shake the bottle. So the guy comes back to the doctor a week later. He's like, the medicine's not working. Take it in the morning, yeah. Take it in the evening, yeah. You take the right amount, yeah. The doctors can't figure it out. Oh, are you shaking the bottle? No, I'm not shaking the bottle. Ah, doctor says, that's what's going on over here. You got to shake the bottle. You're not taking the medicine. The medicine has to. If you don't shake the bottle, it's not the medicine. The medicine is because the bottle's being shook. It says in Sefer Charedim, in Perek Samach Vav, he writes that laziness is casting off the yoke of Hashem. Being in a state of laziness is identical with prikasel. Prikasel means that you're your own guy. You're not right now serving Hashem. You're not feeling that you're a servant of Hashem. You're feeling that you're separate. You're your own guy. So the Sefer Charedim says laziness is the same thing. Feeling lazy is prikasel. We think laziness is just relaxing. No, laziness is prikasel. Is relaxing. There was a chassid. His name was Abzusha Velmovsky. They called him my partisan, my soldier. Very special chassid. He used to say, a chassid cannot go to sleep. Could rest. Going to sleep, but that's a different idea. Here we're talking about being lazy. You can't. Being lazy says he writes in Perek Samach Vav, Ois Kuf Chav, says the Sefer Charedim. It is casting off the yoke of Hashem. He writes also that there are 17 conditions in his introduction. The Sefer Charedim writes in his introduction 17 conditions for a mitzvah, and the condition number 15 is zrizus, alacrity. Alacrity, he says, is a gedola. That's a very important condition to serving Hashem, for a mitzvah to be impactful, to make a difference. There has to be zrizus. Also in Reishas Chachma, in the Gate of Love, section 11, he writes that says in the Torah, "V'chai b'hem," should be alive in the mitzvahs. The simple meaning we know from that sentence is that you're not allowed to give up your life unless it's one of the three cardinal mitzvahs: idolatry, adultery, murder. But otherwise, your life comes first. But he writes, "B'chai b'hem" doesn't just mean you have to preserve your life and preserve your health. B'chai b'hem means to be lebedik. You have to be alive in your mitzvahs. You have to be lebedik. He writes these words: "Lechem atzus leiseichel." Hashem doesn't consume the bread of laziness. You're doing something, doing it a lazy way, it's not accepted. It's not accepted in Shemayim. In order for something to be accepted in heaven, it has to, he says the opposite. He says, God forbid, there's a punishment, chas v'shalom, doing something in a lazy, lackadaisical way. The Shalah also writes in Shar Isies, he writes, in order for a Kiddush cup to be used, there are 10 conditions for a Kiddush cup to be used. For a koishal bracha, it's called a cup of blessing, a kiddush cup, or a cup used for benching, cup used to say the after blessing. There are 10 conditions. And one condition is that the wine has to be chai. Literally means it has to be undiluted, whatever it is. It could be diluted, whatever, but it has to have something called chai, whatever the chai means. But he says, the same is also to receive the blessing from Hashem, you have to be chai. You know what chai means, Naftali? What's lebedik? Be alive. That's why Chassidim always wish each other l'chaim. What's l'chaim mean? Be alive. There's an interesting idea in Mesilas Yesharim. Mesilas Yesharim writes that he says that we know that our actions affect our feelings. Sefer HaChinuch writes that you want to bring yourself to love Hashem, you do the same thing again and again. That's for Hashem, it will bring you to love Hashem. That's why also, like, who loves who more? Parents love their children more, or children love their parents more? Parents love their children more. Why? Because parents are always giving to their children. When you give and you do and you do and you do, it opens your heart. So Sefer HaChinuch says, in order after your actions, your hearts are drawn. He says, you do and do and do for Hashem, that will bring you to love Hashem. But the truth is, it's not just in Sefer HaChinuch, it says in the Rambam. The Rambam writes in the Hilchos Deis, he writes, Yishne v'yishalish, do the same thing again and again, and it'll create a characteristic in your heart. Everyone quotes Sefer HaChinuch, but the Rambam says the same thing. Mesilas Yesharim says something amazing. Mesilas Yesharim says, the same is also for alacrity. When you do something with alacrity, when you do something with excitement, it will open up your pnimis, open up your feelings. Just like the Rambam says, you do actions again and again, it will open up your feelings. He says in a different angle. He says that doing something with enthusiasm, that will open up your heart. Actions in general open your heart. But he says specifically to open your pneumius, when you do something with excitement, with movement. I forget, I was in Florida for a summer. We were doing Merkaz Shlichus, Jewish Peace Corps, going to areas where there weren't Judaism offered and for people in a regular way in the community, and offering them Jewish books and access to different things that they wouldn't have maybe known about. And I was once in a lazy mood, tired, lazy, and we were visiting this gentleman, and I told my friend who was with me, "You go learn with him. I'm too tired." The guy comes out of his room. "What do you mean you're too tired? Let's go!" And he got me out of that. And I remember just getting up and moving opened my heart. Just getting up and going, like, oh, what am I crazy? Am I Meshuggah? So this is the merit of Avram. But on the other hand, this will also help us understand something else. Despite all this, Avram Avinu doesn't get circumcised. Doesn't get circumcised this week until Hashem tells him to circumcise himself. Avram is the one who teaches us about alacrity and serving Hashem, and he keeps all. Rabbi Ashi said that our forefathers kept all the mitzvahs before the Torah was given. We know this. We see many things that our forefathers did. For example, it says that Avram Avinu, he fed his guests milk and meat, and the Yorzvashi writes that Avram fed them first the meat, then the milk and the meat. Why? Because even though meat's more important, the Torah lists the milk first. Why is it lists the milk first? Because he doesn't want them to be hungry for 6 hours till they could have the milk. So Avram is keeping the mitzvah of milk and meat, says Yerzavash. It also says about Yitzchak. Yitzchak is 123 years old. He asks his son, prepare for me a meal. What's his meal? 2 goats, 2 sheep. What's an older man, 123-year-old, going to eat 2 whole goats? So Rashi explains it was Pesach. It was Pesach, and he had to bring 2 sacrifices. It's the Paschal sacrifice. So Yitzchak also keeps the Torah mitzvahs. We find also about Yaakov. Yaakov goes to Lavan's house, and he says to him, Lavan Garti, I was living with Lavan. The word Garti, which means to live with, also has the same number as 613. Yaakov said, I kept all 613 mitzvahs. Rav Ashi even says in the Torah, Eikav Hashem Avram Avinu, Avram kept my guardings, my laws, my Torah. So all these extra words, the Gemara is like, what do all these words mean? The 7 commandments of Noach. What? And the Gemara, Rav Ashi says, he kept even Erev Tavshilin. Even the rabbinical enactments over 1,000 years later, Avram was already keeping. and yet circumcision he didn't do. Why didn't he do circumcision? So there is an explanation of Rabbeinu Peter. Rabbeinu Peter was a student of Rabbeinu Tam, who they say he was the student of Rabbeinu Tam that died through the Crusaders, and was killed by the Crusaders. And so Rabbeinu Peter writes, it's better to be commanded to do a mitzvah than do the mitzvah by yourself. Because if you're commanded to do the mitzvah, then there's an additional value. Hashem commanded you. But that doesn't fully answer it, because in circumcision itself there are two parts, it's Mila and Priya. You could have done part of the mitzvah. So the Chassidus gives the following answer. Chassidus says, a mitzvah isn't just a commandment from Hashem. A mitzvah sanctifies the physical reality. So Avram Avinu could only do a mitzvah, the circumcision once. Once his mitzvah is done. Every other mitzvah he could do again and again. But this mitzvah, since he wanted to have this power to fulfill Hashem's purpose in creation, which Hashem wants a home in the lowest realm of the physical world, and that could only be accomplished when Hashem commanded to do the mitzvah. Therefore, he waited for Hashem to command him to do the mitzvah. But once Hashem commanded him, then the mitzvah would have this, to bring the sanctity to his physical body. It was this mitzvah that was a preparation for the giving of the Torah. When the Torah was given, Hashem, before the giving of the Torah, had this band between the separation of the heaven and earth, the spiritual and physical, couldn't be joined together. And the purpose of creation is that they should be joined together. They should bring Hashem's holiness to the physical world. The mitzvah that was the bridge, the game changer, that began the giving of the Torah, that began the process, especially was the mitzvah of circumcision. There was a physical mitzvah in the physical body, and it brought, because Avram wanted this mitzvah to have something of the quality, the mitzvahs post Mount Sinai, the mitzvahs of after the Torah was given. Therefore, he waited for Hashem to command him, but Hashem's commandment would endow his action with this high level of sanctity. Interesting custom by a circumcision. By a circumcision, you have to have a kvater. You have to have a husband and wife to carry the baby to the circumcision. Now, by a wedding, you also have to have a husband and wife to bring the groom and the bride to the wedding. That makes sense, because the husband and wife are, the groom and the bride are getting married. So to make this happen, we have another husband and wife to bring them into the process. But by a circumcision, who is the baby getting married to? The answer is getting married to Hashem. You're making a covenant with Hashem. There's two parts of the wedding. Therefore, a husband and wife they come from, their divine source of husband and wife is from Hashem and the Jewish people. Therefore, there's a kvater. To bring the baby to the circumcision, you have to have both parties, husband and wife, representing Hashem and the Jewish people. So too, Avram Avinu is like, I could bring to a circumcision, but there's a marriage. We need the other side also. And therefore, we waited for Hashem's commandment, which highlights to us how, as Alter Rebbe said, Kol HaShechavat Shemasa. Hashem's desire, all that Hashem desires is us as action. With a lot of things that I know, theoretical, philosophical, but the purpose of creation is Hashem wants a home in the physical world, and therefore action has a predominance over everything else. As the Talmud says, Ma'aseh, action is the main thing. Because in action, you actually bring the holiness of Hashem to the physical world and make the world what Hashem wants it to be a home for Him. And that's what Mashiach is. Mashiach is the world itself. Not that we're going to go to Gan Eden. Mashiach is the world itself. Will be a holy world. We'll see godliness, everything in the world. So l'chaim. Should see it happen now. Chaim Baruch.
Chaim Baruch. All right.